Now, if you're working on a single image in Photoshop and there are certain sections of that image that you want to do some adjustments on, the best way to do that, obviously, is with what's known as a copy layer. Now, anytime you open an image in Photoshop, it generates what's known as a background layer, and that's shown here in the Layers tab. Now, if you want to work on this image, it's highly recommended that you do not do it on the background layer. In fact, there are processes within Photoshop that will not work at all on the background layer and only on a copy layer. So how do you get a copy layer? Well, there's a couple of ways to do that. One is to choose the background layer, make sure it's chosen, and I usually like to click on it twice very slowly so that you don't, if you double click on it quickly, then you have that little dialog box that comes up. So I'll click on it slowly twice to make sure it's chosen. Left click, hold it down, and then drag it down to this little icon right here, second from the right. It's called a new layer icon, and you let go and it creates a background layer. Now the fastest way to do it, quite honestly, is to either hit Control J on the PC or Command J on the Mac. Very quickly to generate copy layers. Now I'm going to do all my work on the copy layers and let the background layer kind of sit by itself, because if I mess this up here, I can always go back to square one, which is the copy layer, or rather the background layer, and start again. So let's go ahead and look at a hypothetical scenario here. And looking at this image, we've got some really nice clouds here, but I want some more detail on these clouds in front of Half Dome and, of course, Clouds Rest in Yosemite National Park. Now, this little flat area of clouds here we're going to take care of later, but for now let's take care of the contrast in these clouds. So what I'm going to do is click on the top layer, disable it or reduce its visibility, or eliminate rather its visibility, and then I'm going to click on the background layer and do some adjustments. Go to Image, Adjustments, Curves, and let's adjust this, and then we'll bring it down just a little, and you can see how the image is getting a little bit darker, but you can also see where the detail is coming out in the clouds. Now I don't want Half Dome and Clouds Rest to be any darker, just the clouds. So what I'm going to do is come up to the background layer and then return the visibility, and you can see it change there. Now obviously when you're looking at layers, the thing that you're looking at in the image workspace is the top visible layer. So even though we have 3 layers here, if I take away the visibility by clicking on this little eye icon, then what we're seeing is the top layer, which of course is the second background layer. So we'll return visibility to the top layer, and then we will create what's known as a mask, and we'll get into masks in more detail later, but for now just follow me along, and we'll click on masks. Go get the paintbrush, which we've done. We've established an opacity of 18%, so this change is going to be a gradual type change. And make sure the color palette is black, which it is, and then we begin to simply paint. And we'll concentrate on this little area here of the clouds, and we have to darken the sky too to kind of keep everything balanced. And then we just click on it, and I'll reduce the size of the brush by hitting the left bracket key, and come in and get some of the tighter spots, and just kind of wander around and bring out some details. So you can see that the clouds definitely have more contrast and a little more dramatic to look at than in the previous state of the shot. So let's go to before and after, and you can see the result. Now let's go back to the layers palette. Let's look at another way of dealing with layers, and that is bringing in a completely different image and combining elements from one image with the elements of another image. And let's say this image, we want to take some of the clouds that are over here and put them right here, and I'll show you how that's done. First thing we'll do is come over here to this image, left click, hold it down, drag it off the dock, and then go get the move tool. Put the cursor inside the image, left click, hold it down, hold down the shift key, and then just drag it across into the image that we want to combine it with. Let go, and we can see that indeed it is now on top of the first layer. So let's go to the layers palette and see how this looks. Now we have a layer 1 and a background layer, but essentially these are 2 background layers, and we obviously want to work on copies of both of these. So how does that work? Well, you click on layer 1, Control J with the PC, Command J with the Mac, and there's a copy of the top layer. We can also do the same thing with the background layer again, Control J with the PC, Command J with the Mac. Now we've got all our copy layers established, and that's what we want to do. Now let's take the first layer of picture number 1, bring it down, and now we're going to deal with these 2 layers exclusively. So it's a very simple process. Let's move this one because this is the one we want on top. So we're going to take this one, reposition it, left click, hold it down, drag it down between layer 1 and background copy, and you can see how that works. If I remove the visibility of the top layer, the second layer becomes visible in the stack of layers in the workspace here. So let's go ahead and return the visibility of the top layer. I'm going to establish a mask. Again, we have our brush, we have opacity at 18%, and now we're just going to come over here and we're going to erase this little area right here of the image to reveal what's on the second layer. So let's go ahead and do that. We can see some of these other clouds coming in, and that really is going to about do it. That's all we need. And so we've combined the elements from 2 different images to create a third final product. But now look at this. Look at how these clouds are different color than these clouds over here. Well, then we choose this layer. We come up to Image, Adjustments, and we're going to go to Color Balance, and then we're going to do some tweaking to try to bring that into balance. And sometimes it takes quite a long time to bring these into balance. And so we're going to just play with it, and we're going to make an attempt to get all this lined up. And we may not be successful in this particular demonstration, but you get the idea of how you can choose that middle layer and then make the adjustments that will reveal itself in the top layer. Now we've got what's known as a composite image, and we come up here, flatten the image, and we have a newly completed final single image that contains elements of both images, or more specifically, elements from both layers. And there's how you use a copy layer versus a background layer in Photoshop CS6.